How's it going, everyone? This is MindBlank. Welcome back to my channel, where today we are reviewing yet another LG UltraWide monitor. This time it's a new release that's geared towards gamers, so let's see what it can do. This is the inception of something that right now can be considered niche: ultra-wide monitors with fast response times and high refresh rates. The very first one of its kind, this is the LG 34UC79G ultra-wide monitor. You might be a competitive FPS, RTS or mobile player that wanted to switch to ultra-wide but didn't want to give up that awesome 144Hz refresh rate that you've grown so accustomed to. But what sets this apart from all the 34-inch ultra-wide monitors currently available on the market? Well, there's a lot in this monitor's favor and I will cover everything. This is a 34-inch 2560 by 1080 IPS panel with 144Hz refresh rate. On top of this, you also get an awesome curve and FreeSync support. Has this caught your interest yet? Right off the bat, this is an awesome package, but will it live up to the expectations? Let's find out. It's a gaming monitor, and this translates into the design language. There's sharp angles and red accents everywhere. For example, the back, which is pretty aggressive looking with multiple red insertions. I do not like the piano black glossy finish on the sides, as it's a fingerprint and dust magnet, but yeah, what you gonna do? The front sports the same design that LG has got us used to for the past years, with a recessed display covered by a non-removable filter that practically makes the monitor appear bezel-less while off. In reality, this bezel is the same standard thickness I've seen on their monitors, about 11mm or 0.44 inches. The stand is a rugged plastic with red insertions, but there is a metal core inside it. The monitor stand clips into the VESA mount, so no screws required for assembly. There is also built-in height, tilt and rotation, which are always welcome and work a treat without too much or too less force to be applied. It's a very slick design in my opinion, without being overly flashy. As for the curve, it's again a subtle one. You will definitely notice it for the first time, but unfortunately it disappears as you get used to it. Nonetheless, it is an immersion boosting factor, no doubt about this, and it's one of the many things that are going in this monitor's favor. The availability of connect options is very good, with 2 HDMIs, 1 DisplayPort, a headphone jack and a line-out jack, as well as 3 USB 3.0 ports, of which one is a Type B and also supports quick charging. The included plastic cable clip organizer on the back is also designed to support your headphones if you have no other way to put them or tug them. Be warned though, this clip protrudes out of the bag by quite a lot and it distances the monitor from the wall even further. If you are space constrained, then this might be a problem for you. The panel, an IPS one with very good viewing angles, no significant color shift to the sides or vertically. This is very important since this is a very long monitor. A TN panel might exhibit shifting at the extremities since this is 32 inches long or 83 centimeters. It also weighs in a hefty 19 pounds or 8.6 kilos. Backlight bleed seems to be pretty okay on it. I'd classify it as minimal and relatively uniform. Here's how it looks boosted to 6400 ISO just to get an idea of the evenness. Let's address the elephant in the room, and that is the 2560 by 1080 res on a 34-inch monitor. At this size, the vast majority of the panels come with a 3440 by 1440 resolution. But this is not a bad decision. In my opinion, it is quite the contrary, as this monitor's choice of resolution comes hand in hand with the max refresh rate that it sports. Imagine what you need to power, for example, Battlefield 1 at even close to 120 FPS at 3440 by 1440 without sacrificing so much of the quality settings. The pitch between pixels is 0.312mm, so it's rather large, but then again so is the monitor, so sticking your eyes right in front of it is just wrong. You should be at a comfortable distance. You have the real estate for this, do it. For comparison purposes, the pitch on the 29UC78-B, which you can see here by the way, is 0.2628mm. In other words, the pixel pitch is 19% larger. Anyway, this was definitely the right move by LG, as current GPU technology is too expensive to push frame rates so high at 1440p ultra-wide, and I commend this design decision. This monitor checks one box until now, but let's see about the other two important factors for competitive play or otherwise, besides FPS at a given resolution, and that is response time and refresh rate. 144Hz is the max refresh of this IPS panel. There isn't much to be said here, as anyone who's gamed on a high refresh monitor, even 120Hz, knows how important this is for silky smooth and precise mouse movements. There are drawbacks here. The brightness of the panel is reduced at 144Hz and at even 120Hz. However, the latter is more manageable, but there is a clear darkening happening when switching to 144. This is partly remedied by playing with other monitor settings like gamma and contrast, and in software with the display drivers. But it's a palliative measure, not something that completely removes the darkening. At 120Hz it's less noticeable though, and I don't hold this against the monitor, as I know there are technical limitations at the moment, especially for high refresh rate IPS panels that only recently have started to appear. We also have something called DAS, which stands for Dynamic Action Sync, and it is meant to reduce input lag. I haven't seen an option to enable it or disable it, so I just assume that it's on by default. Hyperfast refresh rates are nice and all, but they mean nothing without a very fast response time. This monitor has two general options: a standard response time that can be adjusted from slow to fast, and a 1 millisecond motion blur reduction mode. Enabling this will automatically disable FreeSync, so be warned that they do not go hand in hand. Also, this further darkens the image, which is again to be expected. The standard response time it defaults to when the 1 millisecond option is turned off is 5 milliseconds gray to gray. In practice, 5 milliseconds is just fine for gaming, and we could stand to get a native 1 millisecond response time, but I don't know if this is doable at this price point. It is now that I want to address some weirdness regarding this monitor's specs on LG's own website. For example, the contrast ratio, where we get the mention of mega, no ratio or anything the likes that can be used for reference. Also, looking at their own description of 1 millisecond motion blur reduction, they state that this is virtually, notice the emphasis on virtually, 1 millisecond, so not outright 1 millisecond. Matter of fact, the tech sheet states that this is 5 milliseconds gray to gray, which is still fine as previously mentioned. There's also the usage of the NTSC color gamut instead of sRGB. 72% NTSC is the same as sRGB in terms of gamut, but as far as I know, far from an expert though, the RGB color primaries have different chromaticity coordinates between the many standards available now. There's also the fact that the entire industry is using sRGB. A bit weird, but wanted to mention this as there seems to be something off about the colors on the display. They are a bit muted out of the box, especially at 144Hz with a slightly darker image, but no matter how hard we try to play with the values inside the OSD on the RGB side, we could not get a nice balance. We either had one color more vibrant and the other muted, or some colors were really off the mark. I, however, want to end this discussion quickly, as this monitor is first and foremost a gaming monitor, so people looking for the best of all worlds, meaning that they also require high color accuracy, need not apply here. Fiddling with the settings does produce a great image for gaming, so you should not be worried about this in the end. FreeSync, yes, it's on board, 50 to 144Hz coverage. I would have loved to see either LFC implemented, that's low frame rate compensation, an AMD technique that makes FreeSync more competitive to G-Sync on the lower refresh rate spectrum, or at least 40 as the minimum. There's also no FreeSync through HDMI, just so you know, but it does come with a DisplayPort in the box as well as an HDMI, so kudos to LG for doing this. I will not reiterate the awesomeness that is 21x9 content, especially games. You can check out my idea on the subject in the LG 29UC78-B review over here. However, you need to know the lack of 21x9 media right now. You will get black bars on 16x9 content, making this essentially a 27-inch monitor. 21x9 in gaming is another topic in itself, but almost all recent releases support this, although some much better than others. Wrap up time now, and let's get right to the point. Is this worth the $670 retail price right now? Well, let's recap what you get for your money. 34 inches curved IPS, 2560x1080 that goes really well with a 144Hz refresh rate, native 5 milliseconds response time with an option of virtually 1 millisecond, and yeah, this needs to be clarified by LG what and how it does the things it does, FreeSync support with 50 to 144 range, sleek gaming design and great connectivity options if those matter to you. I think the price is right, and I'd recommend this monitor for competitive users that want to switch to ultra-wide and keep their high refresh rates, but not only for them, it's for anyone wanting a great gaming ultra-wide experience. And to be honest, I absolutely love the concept of this monitor. The fact that they crammed so much at this price point without sacrificing overall quality is downright commendable. Nitpicking about the tech sheet and the fact that, like all high refresh rate monitors, it's a tad darker at 144Hz is just that, nitpicking. And if you're wondering what kind of decently priced GPU you need to power this monitor in order to take advantage the most out of that 144Hz refresh rate, then stay close, cause soon enough I'll have some tests up on the channel. I hope you liked this review, and thank you for supporting this channel by subscribing. See you next time everybody, bye bye.